Vande Guru. A very short video, 2 minutes video about CEIR.
Center for Educational Initiatives and Research, CEIR Global Trust, has established a common platform for educators, students, principals, parents, and management so as to improve the overall school culture in India and abroad. Since its inception from 2009, CEIR has conducted many and extraordinary programs for the target groups right from K1 to K12. All CEIR programs are powered by Veda Handwriting Lab. Veda offers multiple programs for students and teachers. These programs are backed by scientific research. At Veda Handwriting Lab, we say good or bad handwriting is an existing myth. There is only trained or untrained handwriting. To make it possible, Veda Handwriting Lab has developed a training device called Manicure Memory Board for faster and long-lasting results among students and teachers. Handwriting Elite Kit and Life Kit are the flagship programs for Veda Handwriting Lab, accessible through our website www.vedahandwritingkit.com. Now also available on Amazon. We believe that we will be a force to reckon with the near future. We believe that the best is yet to be. The ultimate aim of the CEIR is to create a CEIR Center of Excellence by 2030, a perfect away from home to hone its members. Vande Guru.
Now, let us officially start our program. I invite Dr. Deepali Mishra. She is an educational consultant and on quality management. And she is a mentor of CEIR Global and mentor and moderator for this project as well. Ma'am, please.
Thank you, sir. Am I audible?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
I, Deepali Mishra, will be moderating this afternoon's session. So before initiating the session, I would like to draw your attention to the wonderful work that CEIR is doing to promote learning. You would agree that students are our future, and therefore, to facilitate development of the much needed 21st century skills in them, CEIR has initiated a program, special program for students. It's a SDG competition for them. This will help to create and awareness on sustainable development goals among the students, and it will also help them to consciously work towards creating a safe and healthy world in the future. I urge all participants present here this afternoon to encourage your students of class 6 to 11 to participate in this competition. The first 3 winners will be awarded handsome cash awards, trophies, and certificates. Participation certificates will also be given. The last date for registration is 30th November, and kindly see the link which will be provided in the chat box for registration. If there are any questions on this, we can answer those questions through CEIR Global. You can put your questions regarding this SDG series in the chat box. But right now you are seeing this slide, which is giving you the cash prizes, which are to be given, and the project date submission, which is 15th December. The result declaration will be on 25th December. And of course, but before doing all this, you have to register on 30th November. Thank you. We will now move on to this afternoon's session, which is about achieving foundational literacy and numeracy, why teachers matter. This is the second session in the series, Decoding Nipun, which is organized by CEIR. For those who are attending the Nipun Bharat series for the first time, I would like to acknowledge Mrs. Vijayam Kartha. She has been the brain behind this series. I would also like to acknowledge CEIR and especially thank Dr. Sreesan, for he is the person who ensures that we have the best resource person to take you through the session. Thank you, sir. And thank you, Vijay. So when and how does a child begin to learn? I personally believe that a child first begins to learn the language of communication, to cry in order to seek its mother's attention or to be fed. Next, it also starts to learn to distinguish between known faces and those of strangers. So this is how the journey of learning begins, and it becomes a lifelong learning if we ensure that the child remains interested and engaged in learning. I'm sure you are all aware that the rate of learning is maximum up till the age of 7 or 8. So how do we tap these early years? How do we provide the best kind of learning experience to the child? How do we engage that small 3-year-old child to learn with understanding? Even at this age, how can teachers promote self-learning, peer learning, and how can they provide an experiential learning environment? To know all this and much more, we are fortunate to have with us Mrs. Saraswati Ramamurthy. She's an early childhood care and education expert, and she has 2 Master of Science degrees, one in child development and family studies, and another in special education from Purdue University. With an experience of 22 years plus, she is now equipped to design and develop early childhood education curricula and programs. She teaches children and trains teachers in India and the USA in creating, and also she has the experience and expertise to create digital content products and programs. Some of you may already have seen some of the videos of her videos on YouTube. They're extremely engaging for the child especially. And perhaps you teachers can pick up a lot of tips on how to, take forward the teaching in the classroom from these videos. Saraswati is also a proficient writer. She is an editor and public speaker. Saraswati is passionate about enabling and empowering educators by sharing her expertise in early childhood education, child development, and communication skills. She is the co-founder of an organization called Learning Matters. It is an educational technology organization which is based in Bangalore. And this organization aspires to build teacher competency through comprehensive and customized teacher training, and thus improve student learning outcomes. The organization also holds communicative English programs for teachers and students. So far, Learning Matters has worked with over 10,000 students and teachers across India. So this afternoon session will be focusing on teaching and learning for children studying in nursery, lower KG, and upper KG, that is children in the preschool. We aim to address class 1 and 2 in the next session. Ms. Saraswati will be taking us through what FLN means and looks like in the early years, how to create a learning environment in the classroom, how to have effective communication to achieve FLN. She will also be throwing light upon how to understand the child progress through learning. And that's perhaps one of the difficulties you might also be facing when you look at assessing a child so small. Perhaps we have thus far been conducting our teaching learning somewhat very mechanically and with little focus on understanding foundational literacy and numeracy. Therefore, what comes out strongly and is also emphasized by the National Education Policy is the need to continuously upskill teachers, principals, and educators who are attending this session. I urge you to stay tuned in to learn your lessons on ECCE and FLN, that which you may not be aware of, to reflect on whatever gaps there may be, and to get Saraswati this afternoon to clear your doubts, whatever doubts you may have. I would also urge you to note down your key takeaways from this session and share it with us at the end of the session. I request Saraswati ma'am to now take over from me. Thank you. Saraswati ma'am?
Yes, ma'am.
Are you with us?
Yeah. There's some
Good
network.
evening.
Good evening, ma'am.
Audible for me?
Yes, ma'am, audible.
Good evening. Okay. Am I audible? Okay. Okay. Give me just a second. I think this is Murphy's Law. Let me just try one more. Apologize for this, but please bear with me for a minute.
No problem, no issues.
Am I audible now? Is it better
No,
now?
audible, ma'am. You're always audible.
Yes, very, very clear.
Okay. And is my video also visible to everyone?
Not yet, you have to show us.
I have started my video. I am here. I can see all of you.
Okay, ma'am.
I can see Dipali ma'am. I can see Dr. Sreesan. Okay. Let me just check. Yes, I'm here. I can see all of you.
Yeah, no problem, ma'am. Carry on.
Okay. Are you able to see me now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes. Dipali ma'am, yes? You able to?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
All right. Okay. Thank you so much. So a very good evening to everyone and all the wonderful attendees here. We have such a large crowd with here on a Saturday evening, and that's very, very motivating to see so many people taking time out of the precious Saturday, Sunday weekend time. I think it demonstrates, first of all, your the commitment, deep commitment that each one of you have towards your own learning and towards sort of your own growth in the education space. I'm very honored to be here. Thank you, Dr. Dipali and Dr. Sreesan, for inviting me. And I'm very proud to be representing Learning Matters and the work and the expertise that we have with teachers and with the early childhood education sector. To be here with all of you to share, to humbly share, I might add, to humbly share my expertise in the ECCE and in the foundational literacy and numeracy domain. I will go ahead and share my screen. All right. And I do hope it is visible to everyone.
Yes.
So we are here today to discuss how teachers may achieve foundational literacy and numeracy, otherwise known as FLN, and more specifically to throw the spotlight on what is the role of the teacher in bringing about these crucial milestones to be developed. Okay, so once again, hello everyone. I'm Saraswati Ramamurthy. That is indeed me, but from a very, very long time ago. That is me in one of my, from 2004, as the timestamp on the photograph says, with some of my students. Yes, they were very much my students. I think they're hardly maybe 9 months or 10 months, all the children there, and I'm still in touch with them. They're all teenagers now. And I still am in touch with my students. I am the co-founder and one of the co-founders and the chief marketing officer at Learning Matters Private Limited. We are an education technology organization headquartered out of Bangalore. We work with schools and we love teachers. And I will be sharing a lot more about that in a little while. But teachers are our passion. We are passionate about teachers. We're passionate about enabling and supporting them in any way that we can. A little more on that very soon. And so that you are convinced that I am indeed, the right person to do this session. A very quick look at my background. I have a master's in child development and family studies, and another one in special education, both from Purdue University in the USA, where I went to study. I have also worked in the classroom in Oman, the Sultanate of Oman, as well as in India, and very many years in the United States. After I graduated out of Purdue University, I was actually hired back as a full-time teacher by the very Department of Child Development where I was a graduate student. They took me back as a full-time staff, and I was the head teacher of the infant toddler lab school, where I had the absolute joy and the honor and the thrill to be designing curriculum and programs for infants and toddlers, as well as training undergraduate students who were on their way to becoming teachers, as well as supporting professors in the Department of Child Development who would frequently come into our classrooms to conduct research in child development. So I started off my career, I was that neighborhood girl. I'm sure many of the educators here who are with us today, you can relate with this. You all started off as being, that neighborhood akka or didi or that bhaiya who all the children loved, right? All the children would flock to you. So I was one of them. And I knew very early on that working with children is what I wanted to do. And I was very privileged to do that for very many years before moving into curriculum development for one of the largest education companies in the United States. So I was there for about 14, 15 years before I came back to India and worked with Pearson, managing digital content production and development, before moving on to co-found Learning Matters with two dear friends. I am very much an ECCE, passionate about ECCE. Am I an expert? I don't know. I think, we're all learning until the day we breathe our last. So, and Learning Matters believes in lifelong learning. So it's not just the students, it's teachers, it's even people like me. I may have 22 plus years in education, but believe me, I learn something new every day. One thing that I always learn is that you have to be very careful with technology. You always think you're prepared and then it's there to trip you up, right? As my network showed me today. So it's a great humbler, technology is. So a quick look at our agenda for today. We will spend a few minutes talking about what is foundational literacy and numeracy. What does it mean and what does it look like for the early years? And then we move on to how do we use the classroom environment to bring about FLN. We'll then move on to using communication to bring about FLN, before moving into how can teachers and educators assess children's development through observation, conversation, and play. And finally, we'll move into take a quick look at the importance of upskilling teachers, because none of the first four agenda points will mean anything in a classroom if your teacher is not the right teacher for that classroom, if the teacher is not the right teacher for that age group, if the teacher has not been trained to handle those students and that environment. So it all comes back to teachers, as it should. And that's what I am very, very firm and passionate about. And so we will take a quick look, a quick dive into all of these different aspects. I'm very aware that we have a huge, wonderful audience here, and I know many of you will have so many years of experience in the field of education, in teaching. Many of you probably are experts in ECCE and in early childhood and in the early years yourself. So what I have done is I have addressed each of these agenda points from my unique perspectives of having worked in India and the United States, the sort of the best practices that I have learned and have become a part of my ECCE philosophy and ethos. So each of these agenda items is taken from the viewpoint of my very large and very deep experiences in this field. And I hope that it will resonate with all of you as well. Okay, a quick, before we start, just wanted to point out that whether it's a student or whether it's a teacher, at Learning Matters, we believe that the most beautiful thing about learning is that nobody can take it away from you. Once you have learned something, once you have gained a skill, a new skill, nobody can take that away from you, and it's yours to keep forever. And that is the power of learning. And so this is something we very passionately believe in. And so a very quick look at Learning Matters. What do we do? Our sort of statement is that we are in educating with AI, with artificial intelligence. We firmly believe, as I have said, enabling teacher competency is the right and the only way to improve student learning outcomes and to create long-term positive impact in education. It is possible to make impact in education, when you work directly with students, yes, of course, but one can create, any organization or any individual can hope to create sustainable, scalable, and very far-reaching positive impact only when we work to enable our teachers to support them with the right kind of tools they need and with the right kind of training they need. So yes, as Dr. Dipali pointed out earlier, primarily we train teachers, we provide tools to them, and these are some of the organizations that we are so proud to be associated with, including the Karnataka government, the Tamil Nadu government, Diksha, and the Ministry of Human Resource Development. And a quick look at some of the wonderful institutions that we have the honor of partnering with. The Don Bosco and the Jain Group of Schools, as well as the Tata Technologies and the Tata Trust Group, Chlorophyll Foundation in Odisha, and so many others whom we cannot, no space to bring them all here, but every institution that we work with, we learn so much. And so before we get into foundational literacy and numeracy and the ECCE age group, here is something that I strive to live by, especially when it comes to teaching. Teaching is not about answering questions, but about raising questions and opening doors for them, for our children, in places that they could not imagine. Now, if you are an educator that can do this for even one child, then I think we have achieved something great. If we, through our work, through our impact on our students, if we can show them possibilities, if we can show them what they can become, if we can identify, recognize their potential, and take them down that path of doing something with that potential, basically open doors for them, then I think we have done our life's work. So again, teaching is not about answering questions, but about raising questions. I sincerely hope that you all will agree with me on this. So what does foundational literacy and numeracy mean and look like in the early years? And before we get into that, a very quick look, a very quick refresher for all of us on, we all know, we've heard of Nipun Bharat, but what does it exactly mean? And this is going to be a very quick look at this. Nipun stands for the National Initiative for Proficiency in Reading with Understanding and Numeracy. And that is what Nipun stands for. And FLN refers to a child's ability to read with meaning. That's the crucial part, is with meaning, and solve basic math problems by class 3. These are, of course, crucial basic skills that help them succeed in life. And a very quick look at then what is foundational literacy. Pre-existing knowledge of a language that helps children gain those very, very critical literacy skills. And what goes into acquiring these skills? One aspect is the oral language development, the phonological awareness. The second is the decoding. The second is the decoding. That is the print awareness, knowledge of the aksharas and word recognition. Moving into the next level, which is reading fluency with comprehension. So not just reading, but reading with understanding, being able to understand what the words mean. And finally, of course, writing your alphabets, aksharas, and words with expression. Foundational literacy and foundational numeracy, as the very phrase says, foundational, absolutely critical in those early years to ensure that each one of our students achieves these milestones. Without our students achieving these milestones, it becomes a severe challenge for our students as they grow into the higher grades, because not having met these milestones, not having acquired the basic skills, as we all know as educators and as those in the education domain, leads to lower grades as they grow older, because of the decreased ability to comprehend what they are reading, decreased ability to then decode and answer, a decreased ability to solve those critical mathematical problems, and therefore lower grades, which then leads to the decreased motivation in coming to school and learning, which of course leads to dropouts, and the rest we know. This sort of very dismal, vicious cycle, right, can be eradicated in so many students if only there is a greater emphasis on FLN, not just an emphasis, but ensuring that the teachers who are placed in these classrooms to achieve FLN, first of all, understand what FLN means and are trained to be able to bring about those milestones. Foundational numeracy, of course, includes an understanding of pre-number concepts, numbers and operations on numbers, shapes and spatial understanding, and measurement. So these are the very critical literacy and numeracy skills that our children should achieve in those early years. So why is FLN critical? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up to our chat room. If I can have everyone quickly share your thoughts through the chat on why is achieving these milestones critical, that would be wonderful. And I believe there is someone who is not on mute. Could we please request everyone to just quickly have a check? Make sure you're on mute. Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Yes, I would love to hear your thoughts. We keep saying FLN is critical, FLN is critical. Why? Why is it critical? Okay, thank you, Namrata and Sri Shankara Devi. Yes, lack of practice because the basic skills do not reach to the children. Lack of confidence, lack of interest, lack of practical experience. Okay, wonderful answers. Neeta, Annabelle, Neha, thank you all so much for sharing. Yes, Aisha, you're absolutely right. It's very critical, but many Indian children are deprived. There is a lack of limitations are there. Yes, Smita, if you could also maybe put in one or two of your thoughts on what are those limitations. Thank you, Prita and Rashmi. Lack of teaching technique and lack of knowledge, they say. Yes, so I assume you're talking about the teachers, right? So they do not have the enough training or the experience or the practical learning on how to work with children. Yes, no proper training for teachers. Yes, Kavita. Yes, Jayashri, they do not get not have a strong foundation. To find where the experiential learning and training lack, that's right. Yes, Kanan, if it is critical because if children are not good at the foundational skills, they wouldn't be able to progress well in higher grades. That's exactly right. Yes. Yes, lack of practical. Thank you all so much. I think it's very, very clear. I'm very lucky to have a very wonderfully participative audience here. Thank you all so much. Yes, milestones. That's a very good point to Prasanna. Thank you so much. Yes. So moving on. Thank you so much. Yes, all of you have covered between you all of the different aspects on why foundational literacy and numeracy is critical, and I thank you all for participating so enthusiastically and sharing your thoughts. And I think every one of your points is like a part of the puzzle on the criticality of foundational literacy and numeracy. So thank you so much. So here are a quick look at the those critical skills broken down. Foundational literacy is reading with comprehension. Remember, it's not just about reading. It's not just about identifying letters and not just about being able to read cat back, but being able to understand. So the comprehension is critical. Identifying letters, identifying initial or final words, reading non-words, so that is the made up words as well, reading familiar words, listening with comprehension, and orally reading with fluency and comprehension. Foundational numeracy is having a number sense, identifying numbers, being able to discriminate between numbers, being able to identify missing numbers, solving addition and subtraction and word problems. So, and also the aspects of measurement and shapes and spatial awareness, because of course those are the foundations of geometry and algebra. So this is a question for everyone, and of course, more specifically to all of those who work with the younger age group. When can we claim, or when can we say, as an early childhood educator, when is a child displaying any FLN skill? What I mean by this question is, how do you know, or what are all the things that a child can do to show that he or she has some understanding of foundational literacy and numeracy?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Okay, when a child starts responding, says Neha, yes, counting, they show practical examples through communication, they understand when they are communicated, identifying in the surrounding, they are able to read, write, communicate. Or when a child asks questions, wonderful, Siba Prasad, asking, children also must ask questions when they communicate and respond, or when they show curiosity, wonderful, Neha. Academic mistakes, yes, when they start responding and communicating, wonderful. So exactly. So, and what I really love about your answers is that you all have looked at it from a broad perspective, and that is exactly right. In the early years, children, anything that a child does, which shows any basic understanding or comprehension of the fact that a certain shape is tied to a letter, or that any shape, certain shapes, the shapes of the alphabets and the shapes of the numbers, the numerals as we call them, that they are actually they mean something, and they are tied to communication. When the child is able to show that these shapes, this A, B, C, D, and whatever, that is actually tied to a form of communication. And when the numbers, when they don't just use them as words, but when they understand that numbers and numerals signify some kind of quantity, that is when you start seeing, that is when they start showing that understanding of literacy and numeracy. Yes, wonderful. Yes, Sabrina, and you're absolutely right. It's important for us as educators to answer all of the questions. I cannot agree with you more. I think being an early childhood educator is one of the most tiring jobs in the world, because even though the children are not at an age where they can talk very well, as the educator, as the teacher in the classroom, it is your primary role to over communicate, because that is how they are picking up all of their literacy skills. That is the basis of all of those literacy skills. Again, thank you so much, everyone. Such a wonderfully participative audience, Dr. Srishan and Dr. Dipali. I must commend this audience. Really engaged, and thank you all so much for answering the questions. Yes, you're absolutely. Each one of you is again absolutely right, and we'll get into a little bit more. And for those of you who are wondering, why I quietly removed my earrings, let me explain. Dr. Dipali was kind enough to point out to me that my earrings are creating a lot of disturbance with the audio coming from my end. Very sorry, I should have realized that. So I very quietly took them off. So that's what it is. Okay. So yes, a child displays foundational literacy and numeracy the minute they are able to correlate that letters are involved in communication, and when they demonstrate the understanding that numbers and numerals are correlated with quantity and with measurement. Okay, so moving on to the next part of our agenda. How do we use the classroom environment to bring about foundational literacy and numeracy? So we know what FLN is, we know what those milestones are, we know what it is that children have to achieve, but how do we actually bring it out? Okay, so for this, we will first look at what is classroom environment. When we use the phrase classroom environment, what do we mean? I wanted this actually to appear, each part to appear dramatically one by one, and I just couldn't get Google Slides to work for me to do that. A frequent, I should say, gap in understanding that I have seen in many beginner teachers and especially those who work with young children, when it's a fresher teacher who hasn't had that much experience in the classroom, when I ask them, so what do you mean by classroom environment, what all come as part of this, right? They will typically answer as it is the physical environment, right? It is the space that I have, it is the desks and the chairs and the shelves and all of my teaching learning materials. All of these make the classroom environment. And I always point out to them and say, that is only one part of the classroom environment. Your classroom environment is, of course, the physical part of your classroom. It's also the instructional part. What is it that the teachers, the educators in that classroom are carrying out with the students? It's also that. It's also the social part. What are those social relationships? What are the social aspects that are happening daily between everyone who is part of the classroom? It's also the emotional aspect. How does a child feel emotionally when he or she is in that classroom? This is sadly an often overlooked part of education and of teaching. I think we need to talk about this a lot more, especially in light of the pandemic, and how so many children worldwide and in our country have viewed so many sad things at home, right? They've probably seen death. They've probably seen family members coping with death, with severe illness, losing jobs, losing so many things that they had, parents struggling, family members struggling. The thing about children is, of course, they are extremely resilient. We all know that. But the thing about children also is that they're very good at masking it. They're very good at not voicing that. And I hope that you all agree with me that the child's emotional well-being or the emotional state of your students is so critical, and that is the one thing that determines how well they will learn, how much they will learn. It's like if you, I'll give an example. It's a very a bit of a cheeky example. Okay, when we are all, and this includes me as well, when I am forced to attend a webinar or a session where I don't feel like I have anything, the topic doesn't relate to me, or just the way that I've been told to attend it maybe I didn't like it, or I'm put off by something. Okay, so when I attend the webinar, how engaged am I going to be with the webinar, right? Honestly, probably not very, right? So at the end, I'll probably be sitting there to give my attendance, but how much am I actually going to learn? Probably not a lot, because I am mentally and emotionally not connected with the session, okay, for whatever reason. But the minute I feel very connected to the session, either the presenter is someone I've already seen before and I love the presenter, I think, oh, he or she is so good at doing this, right? If that happens, or I feel that this topic I've been waiting to learn more about it, the minute I have that, the minute I feel, oh, this is a session where I'm going to really feel like I'm a part of it, and that emotional connect is there, I'm going to pay 10% attention. Okay, I'm going to learn so much. I'm sure you will all agree with me. If this is true for us grown-ups, it's even more so for our children. So all these four aspects, we must remember, it's the physical, the instructional, the social, and the emotional, that is all part of the classroom. But let's not forget the one critical element that binds all of these four elements together. That is our teacher. Okay, because the I think someone unmuted themselves by mistake. If you could all please check. I'm so sorry, I can hear someone's background. Okay, thank you. I can't hear it anymore. Yeah, thank you so much. The teacher, okay. The teacher is the one who plans the physical environment of the classroom. The teacher is the one who sets the tone for the instructional aspect. The teacher sets the tone for the social and the emotional. The teacher holds all of these in his or her hands, and therefore it is the teacher who matters the most. Let's take a closer look at each one of these. Using the physical environment for FLN. I have, like I said, I'm drawing from my experience of having worked with the young ones for many years, designing curriculum for them. When it comes to the physical environment for foundational literacy and numeracy, according to me, these are the most important aspects. One is your classroom layout. And why am I talking about the layout? Those of you who have worked with ECCE in the ECCE sector, preschool, nursery, right? You typically tend to have more open spaces. I'm sure you have observed that very slight changes to the setup of your classroom can bring about dramatic changes in your students. Okay, what I mean is, and you all can feel free to experiment and write back to me and tell me. Okay, after doing this kind of research, if you create a long space in your classroom, okay, where there are no shelves, nothing in between, okay, it's just a wide open space, what is the first thing that your students are going to do when they see that space? If that's exactly right. I don't know who this person is. I only see a number, but the answer came immediately: run. That is exactly right. So you must have experience with this. They will run because for them, wide open space, it is an immediate connection. They don't think, the body acts, I have space to run and stretch my muscles. They will run. Now, is it more effective for the ECC teacher to keep saying, children, we must not run, children, we must not run, children, use your walking legs, this space is only for reading? Or is it more efficient when the teacher simply creates a different layout by removing the wide open space, by putting up barriers with shelves and creating spaces? Because the minute children visually see that there is no place to run, they're not going to run. So this is a very small and one example. There are so many examples of how your physical environment of your classroom affects how your children, how the students behave, respond, interact, learn in the environment. So when it comes to literacy now, I would encourage all of you to close your eyes and think back to your physical classroom. Hopefully you are all slowly getting back into the physical classroom. There is much excitement everywhere with schools reopening. I hope you're all getting to be part of that excitement. Think back to your physical classroom. Is there a separate reading corner for your little ones with books in it that they can see, with books that they can easily reach and handle? Is everything in your classroom at their level? Are they able to reach and manipulate things themselves? Is the reading corner relatively quiet? One of the fundamental basic mistakes I see young teachers doing is creating a reading corner right next to a blocks corner, right? So what's going to happen in the blocks corner? Children are going to be building and blocks are going to be crashing. So the reading corner is obviously going to be noisy. So think about these aspects. Do you have a reading corner with books that your children can easily access? Is it relatively quiet? Do you have a writing area? What's the writing area? It doesn't have to be a big fancy area, just a shelf, okay, with paper, with chalk, crayon, pencils, whatever it is that you want to provide in little baskets, rough paper, one-sided paper, and a table with 2 chairs. That's more than enough. But keep it open-ended. Like I have said here, a writing corner with open-ended writing materials. What I mean is there should be a corner where children should feel free to go and make a choice. It is amazing the role that choice plays in making them feel empowered. Okay, when you give a child a choice to in their classroom, they feel so much more a part of the classroom. Okay, it's like this. All the ladies here, okay, when you are there's a relative who's getting married and they're going to buy you a sari. Okay, do you prefer it if they take you and give you a choice, or when they just buy a sari of their own and give it to you? I'll answer for all the ladies here. Okay, obviously we prefer it when we are given a choice, because then we like the sari more. Why? Because I chose it, I like the color, so therefore I'm going to like it and enjoy wearing it, right? But when I'm given a sari, I may or may not like it. If I don't like it so much, then I'm not going to wear it, right? It's the same thing. Provide a writing corner, a reading corner where the children can choose. Okay, don't give a book and say, today read this book. Okay, but if you give 10 books, that's all, just 10 books, okay, in a nice little shelf, and say, go and read. Watch and see the magic of choice. Okay, see how they will respond. I can choose my own book. I can choose whether I want to experiment with writing with crayons or pencils. How fantastic. That sense of power that they get, the sense of belonging they get is powerful. Similarly, for your numeracy, is there a separate math corner? Now, here's the trick question. I have asked a question, is there a separate math corner? But then I followed it up with another question, should there be one? Should there be a separate math corner, or is math just part of everything that they do in the environment? What do we all think? Should there be a separate math corner? Okay. Okay, I see a lot of yeses. And I see a lot of people saying, that they are agreeing very vociferously with what I'm saying. Thank you so much. It's amazing to feel the vibes. I can feel the vibes. Okay. So mixed answers. People are saying yes, they should be a separate. Yes, according to the space. So here's the thing, right? I have always felt that math on what we call as early numeracy, foundational numeracy, or pre-numeracy, actually can be woven into everything that you do. Okay, for example, when you are working on blocks, building blocks, children are building. Okay, with whatever type of blocks, you can always bring math in without specifying. You can say, for example, what are you going to build? They'll give some answer. Okay, how many blocks are you going to use to do that? What do you think? How many red? How many green? How many rectangle? How many square? Do you think that the square block will fit on top of the rectangle block? Do you think 2 square blocks will be the same as a rectangle block? So the possibilities to bring in math, numeracy into any activity, even when reading, we're reading a book together. This is page number 1. Look at this number right down here. That says 1. This is the first page. When we turn the page, it's going to say 2. That's the second page. How many dogs do you see on this page? How many mothers do you see on this page? How many cakes do you see on this page? What happens if we add all the animals together? So there is integration of math and numeracy can happen in any and every activity. Believe me, it just takes a little bit of creativity, but a lot of communication from the teacher. Okay, the second aspect, teaching and learning materials, also called TLM. Believe me when I say anything can be used to practice writing. even fingers and water. I don't know how many of you have done this or have used this technique. I did it a lot when I was in the classroom with little ones. I would give them little mugs of water. And if you have a blank wall, just a wall which you don't mind getting a little wet, okay, or an outdoor wall, maybe better if it's outside, it'll dry in the sun. Give them brushes, or just tell them to dip their fingers and to practice writing, or give them brushes and ask them to write the numbers. You'll be amazed to see how cool they think that is. Okay. Similarly, writing in sand, give trays with sand, trays with colored rice, tubs of water, and giving laminated letters. Okay. So the wetness makes the letters stick to a plastic sheet. So there are innumerable ways in which children can practice writing, dipping their hands in paint, for the very early ones, writing with that, exploring writing, because that is pre-writing. I mean, being able to make shapes, use your fingers, understand how the muscles of your hands work. So like I said, even fingers and water is enough to do writing. The second aspect in TLM is to integrate counting, number identification, and number sense with objects seen and used commonly and daily. What does this mean? This was true even of me as a student. As I was growing up, I always thought that math was a separate subject. Okay, math is a subject I have to learn to do well in school. And of course, I dreaded it, and all of those things. But why do we say that about math? Math is actually a part of our life. It happens daily, right? When you deal with money, currency, when you go to a shop to buy things, you're weighing, you're measuring, there are shapes, there's measurement all around us. Geometry and algebra are actually part of our daily life. The point is, as educators, sometimes we fail to communicate that to our students. And I think that's the critical part. Talk about math. When you talk about numeracy and numbers and shapes, talk about it as being part of everyone's daily life and see the change that it makes. And finally, provide lots of opportunities to read. Even if your child comes from a background where they've not been exposed to literacy, just the act of holding a book, understanding how a book works, okay, just that brings about a world of difference. There is a lot of research that shows that children who are exposed to a lot more books at this critical age of preschool, nursery, KG, automatically have much better academic learning outcomes in the later years than those who have not handled books. And they don't have to read, just touching a book, the act of turning the pages, going through it, understanding that a book consists of images and letters, just that is enough to spark early literacy. So provide lots of opportunities to read, keep rotating books. Environmental print. What does environmental print mean? Have any of you noticed this? Like when children, very young children who cannot read yet, they see like a Coke truck going by and they will immediately say Coke, right? How do they know that that word means Coke? It's not that they're reading COKE means Coke. They've just understood it as environmental print. By seeing the ads, they have related. And by relating, somewhere inside, they actually have understood that those shapes of COKE mean the word Coke. So provide a lot of environmental print for them. A very simple thing that we have done is labeling things in your classroom. Just putting a sticker on a table that says table, TABLE, CHAIR, WALL, push, pull, blue, red, green, boy, girl, book, blocks, anything, because I cannot tell you the number of times I have seen children standing by those stickers. They have forgotten all the toys, all the teaching learning materials, standing there, tracing those letters with their hands, and then they will ask, what does this say? What is this? Because they have understood that that means something. So a lot of environmental print and a lot of displaying children's work at eye level, which is extremely critical. A lot of displaying sight words. Yes, thank you. I would also urge all of you to keep checking the chat window, because as I am presenting, many of our attendees are also giving in a lot of sharing, a lot of wonderful things here. So whenever you can, please do take a look there. Thank you all so much. This is all amazing what all you all are putting in. So please do keep taking a look at the chat, and thanks everyone for sharing your knowledge and your advice with everyone. So this is how we use the physical environment. How do we use the instructional environment for FLN? By providing dedicated time for purposeful, meaningful reading and writing activities. Ensure that your daily schedule has dedicated time for reading, dedicated time for writing. Weave numeracy through the daily schedule and activities. I already spoke about this. Show the connection and the correlation of numbers and their use in daily life. Show them that math is something that is part of our life every day, and that makes a big difference. Bring in interdisciplinary learning. I saw a lot of comments on this on the chat as well. Thank you for those of you who were skipping ahead in the slides. Yes, reading and art. Why does reading or why does writing always have to be sitting with paper and pencil? Why don't you paint letters? Why don't you do math outside? How can you do math outside? Can you solve problems on a floor with chalk? Can you write on a wall with chalk? Can you count as you're doing something, as the number of times you jump? So there are multiple ways in which you can integrate the three aspects of foundational literacy and numeracy with other disciplines such as art and music and dance and so on. And most importantly, do it through play. Use music, dance, art, games, sports, storytelling, drama. Use your field trips. Once that happens, fingers crossed, once we all get back to that. Do all of this to bring in your literacy and numeracy every day on a daily basis. I will just do a quick check of the chat to see if there are any questions for me. Okay, no questions, but wonderful ideas. Thank you. I am also doing a quick time check, and oh wow. Okay, so I better speed through my slides. Okay, using the emotional environment for FLN. Here are some questions we all must think about very seriously and very deeply, and be very honest with ourselves when we answer. How safe is your classroom? I don't mean like, do you have sharp objects and, is it, do you have, items which are not child friendly? I don't mean that. I mean, how safe is your classroom for a child? How does a child feel? How safe do children feel when they come into your classroom? How inclusive is your classroom? How do you, as an educator and your classroom, how do you represent your acceptance of diversity, your acceptance of differences? And do you have children who are developmentally different from others? Have you recognized that? If you have recognized that and you have understood, what are you doing about it? So this aspect, like I said earlier, is one that is very sadly missed by many of us. Okay, when the books that we put out in our classroom, the examples that we use, the way we speak about people, all of these, children are hanging on to every word their teachers say, right? We all know that. I've been a teacher myself. My children have their own teachers. And when I tell them something, no, this should be done this way. No, mama, ma'am said it should be like this. Ma'am is God, right? Teacher is God. What teacher says is gospel. So when that is the case, and it is even more so for the young ones, all of us who have been in ECCE, and we have the little ones who literally come and sit on us, fall on us, hug us, touch us, okay? They think we are the world to them. So when we are the world to them, we should be extremely careful about the environment we're providing for them, the kind of models we provide, both in language and in our actions. Yes. One example I will use very quickly is look at the kind of books in your classroom. For example, do all your books only show city scenes? Like, do they all show only like nice big apartments with AC, beds, fridges and TVs and flat screen TVs and all of that? Well, there may be some children in your classroom who don't live in houses like that, right? So for them, the definition of a house or the definition of even a family can be very different. But do you always only speak about a family as having a mother, a father, and children? Some children may not have a mother or a father. Some children may have neither. Okay, for them, the family may be grandmother and grandfather. Maybe they have no siblings. We are in a world which has changed so much from 10 years ago. The definition of family is very different. The definition of home, house is so different. So be very careful about what you say. I personally, this is a personal, beef of mine is that many of the things that come from my children's school as well, for approval, or we need permission from home, it will always say father's permission, father's consent. And I always say to myself and say to my husband as well, what nonsense, yeah? Why only father? Why can't the mother give the consent? Okay. Why is the father being asked always? Very sorry. Like I said, it's a very, maybe a very controversial topic. But my point is, the minute the school sends that to me, and I know this is an age-old tradition, right? This is an age-old thing that's been happening for years. The school just hasn't bothered to change it. They probably think, oh, who will go and change all these forms, and let's just continue with it. I understand that from the administrative perspective. But when it comes to me and I'm looking at it, I'm thinking, I mean, am I not a 50% partner in bringing up my children? So why does it always say father? Why not mother, right? Same thing. As a teacher, what words are you using to talk about so many different things? Remember, the children are listening and hanging on to every word. So if your child, every child in your classroom has to learn, has to achieve these milestones. And Nipun Bharat says this as well, emotional well-being, and that includes health, that includes being nourished properly. All of these are critical. If I have not eaten my breakfast because my family cannot afford it, how do you expect me to learn? How do you expect me to remember that I had a homework due today, or that I have not polished my shoes, or that I have not covered my books? That means nothing to me. I'm hungry, right? So think about all of these aspects. Try to find out more about the background of each student. A child who feels safe, respected, and loved can and will enjoy learning. It is up to us as the teachers and the educators to make sure each child feels that way. There is no two ways about it. It is on us. So every single thing that you say, the examples that you use, right? Even in math, you might say so and so had. I'm thinking of an example I saw recently. So and so had two TVs, and then one broke. Okay, for some children may not even have one TV. Okay, so all I'm saying is, let's be more sensitive. Let's make sure that our classroom environment is accepting of every single child. And moving on to the third part of our agenda. Sorry, I am trying to go a little fast because I know we are getting close on time. But as you can see, these are topics I'm very passionate about. Using communication to bring about FLN. How do we do that? I have two things that I love to say about this. And yes, thank you all so much, Kannan and Afreen and Veda, for agreeing with my previous points. Using communication to bring about FLN, what does this mean? Okay, this is a very favorite topic of mine. The power of open-ended questioning. Rather than get into communication strategies, in the time we have, I want to focus on two very critical things that time and again in my experience have proven to be invaluable. One is open-ended questioning. I think I will be saying this till my last day on earth. Okay, open-ended questioning. What is open-ended versus closed-ended questioning? And a closed-ended question is a question that can be answered with a simple yes or no. Have you eaten lunch? Yes. Have you had breakfast? No. Okay, what is an open-ended question? It is a question that cannot be answered with a yes or a no. Here's an example. Are you enjoying my session? Could some of you please put in your answer in the chat? My question to you is, are you enjoying my session? Oh, I see the answers pouring in. I'm very scared to open the chat window. I hope it's all yes. Okay. Oh, thank God. Okay. Yes, yes. Vijay Lakshmi's put a big ha ha ha. Yeah. Okay. Very good. Thank you. Thank you all so much. Here's my next question now. Be ready. What do you like about my session? Now, can I get some answers, please? Okay. Okay. So relevant, lively. It's very interesting. The way you are explaining your energy and knowledge. Okay. Wow. Okay. It's like, wow. This is like, I feel I've received Padma Shri today. Okay. Thank you all so much. This is amazing. Okay. Oh my. Okay. Thank you all so much. Okay, this is amazing. Thank you all so much. Now, wait, hold on, everyone. Hold on. Oh, Vijay Lakshmi is giving me an Oscar. Thank you, Vijay Lakshmi. Oscar is also good, but our own Padma Shri is any day better. No, thank you all so much. Okay, so here's the difference. When I asked everyone the question, "Are you enjoying my session?" Everyone answered. Everyone answered with great enthusiasm and love and said yes. But when I said, "What do you like about my session?" I forced you to think. I forced you to write longer responses. I forced you to be more involved in your answer. Yes or no? Yes. So that is the power and the difference between open-ended and closed-ended questioning. Every time you ask your students questions, no matter what grade you teach, no matter how old your students are, make it open-ended, because open-ended questioning is a very simple way of achieving hot skills. Okay, creative thinking, expressive thinking, problem solving, analyzing. All of this happens only with open-ended questioning. In the early years, a very strong example of this is, by mistake, if you ask your students things like, "Okay, children, shall we clean up now?" What's the answer many of you have got? No. Yeah, you asked me if I want to clean up. I'm giving you an honest answer. No. "Okay, children, shall we write now?" No. So when you as a teacher don't want to accept no as an answer, don't ask that kind of a question. Say, "Okay, children, what shall we clean up now? Shall we clean up the books first or the blocks first?" So this is actually, it's like getting two mangoes with one stone. Okay. One, you're giving them a choice. So the child suddenly feels very, wow, I get to choose what I'm going to clean up. Wow. Okay. Second thing is, you're not even giving them an option to say no. Okay. So open-ended can actually come out in so many aspects. It is not just your questioning, it is also in the way you converse with your students. So here are some favorite open-ended questions of mine. What do you know about whatever? How did you get 4? Okay, like when somebody says the answer is 4, how did you get 4? Make the child say, "I added 2 and 2, miss, and I got 4." What did you write? What did you draw? Why is that happening? Show me how you did this. Show me how you wrote this. Tell me what you were thinking when you wrote this. How do you know that? What will happen what do you think will happen next? Oh, a very favorite question that children love is when you're reading a book with them and you say, "What do you think will happen next?" And you should see the answers that come out, okay? Or you say, "What do you think will happen on the next page?" How can you write about this topic? When you have older children who say, "Oh, ma'am, paragraph writing again," ask them, "Okay, how do you think you can bring in something interesting into this topic? How do you think you can write about this topic? Tell me about this. What will happen if?" So these are all very easy ways of just changing the words you use when you question. Okay, I was going to do an activity now about changing these questions, but we may not have the time. I quickly want to get through to the rest. So instead of saying, like I said, "Shall we read now? Did you understand what I'm saying?" All they'll say is yes or no. Say, "If you did not understand, tell me what you did not understand. What did you like about this activity? What did you not like about this activity?" And so on. Another important aspect of communication is the power of sign language. I want you all to just think back to a time, any time, right? It could be any time of your life when you could not communicate with someone, anyone, in the usual way. So how did you feel and what did you do to get around in that situation? What did you have to do? You probably had to come up with some other way of communicating with that person. Let me just quickly check. Yeah. So, okay. Why do we only consider speech to be typical communication? And why can't we enable our children to communicate in multiple ways? Here's where I'm going with this. Think about this. Young children, the really little ones, right? The children that we're talking about today, the age group. What do they do first? Which do they use first to communicate? Their hands or their mouth? You can go ahead and put in your answers in the chat. Yeah, gestures, hands, exactly. A child few months old can point, okay, can show you what they want before they say the words, I want that, right? So children are able to use their fingers and their hands much more agilely, then they are able to pick up the power of oral communication. So doesn't it make sense that we teach our young children sign language? I am a huge proponent of using sign language. I taught it to all the children in my classroom. I taught it to my own sons when they were young. The power that it gives children is something to be watched. Okay, you are basically empowering that child to communicate. My favorite example of before I get into the benefits, favorite example of sign language is a girl about 9 months old who had been learning sign language. The sign language for more, I want more of something, is this. So the children in my class would very frequently and easily use this to communicate if they wanted more of milk, or more of whatever they were having. A very young, I have seen as old as 6 months trying to do this. Okay, they may do this, they may do this, whatever it is, they are doing that. This child's mother came to visit her in this classroom just to say hi, and then was walking away. This child, 9 months old, is looking at the mother and doing this. Okay, she's trying to communicate to me what? I want more of my mother. Okay, if she did not know that sign, I would not have known what is going through the child's head. When I saw that day, I think I had goosebumps. Okay, that is when I realized that sign language is so powerful, and it is a critical foundational skill for literacy. Actually, it is a critical foundational skill for any kind of hot thinking as well. Here is why. Contrary to a lot of the common belief is that if you teach children sign language, they will not learn to speak. Not at all. It's the other way around. Learning sign language helps them to speak faster. That is because when you use your hands, there is a motor connection between your hands and your brain. It's like how, between writing on pen and paper and typing, there are many of us writers who will say, I can only write wonderfully when I'm writing on paper. It's the same thing. When there is a connection between your hands, the motor connection between your hands and your brain accelerates speech. Okay, so accelerated speech, better word retention due to muscle memory, greater vocabulary, sentence formation, faster acquisition of reading skills, therefore leading to effective communication, lower frustration for children. The more I'm able to communicate better with everyone in my environment, I'm not so frustrated now. And because I'm not frustrated, I have better relationships with everyone. I also pay more attention to others. I've seen that children who learn sign language have a greater sensitivity to others, which leads to very, very good emotional development and a better sense of self. So these are the wonderful, wonderful benefits of sign language. I urge you all to understand that sign language is for everyone, even babies. And it's not just for those who do not have the ability to speak. And here are a few wonderful sites where you can look up sign language: indiansignlanguage.org, kidscourses.com. Just put in sign language, Indian sign language, and you will get them. Learn them. Those of you who work with the young ones, use it. And I would love to hear from you on what difference did you see, what difference did you see that it made. Moving on, assessing children's development through observation, conversation, and play. Okay, so very simple, yes or no. Does assessment always have to be formal? You can go ahead and put in your answers in chat. I think I know what your answers are going to be. Yeah, exactly right. No, assessment is not always formal. And let's face it, formal assessment doesn't have a very great track record or a history, because who has seen this before? I love this because it's a great example of how assessment should not be, or what the dangers of formal assessment, right? So here you have the examiner who's saying for a fair selection, everyone has to have the same exam, which is to climb the tree. Okay, and obviously the happiest student there is the monkey, because the monkey can climb the tree in a jiffy, whereas all the others, the fish and the elephant are wondering, how am I even going to get up the tree? Okay, when I am not equipped to do that. It's the same thing with our students. Think about how you're assessing them. Let me get into that. Here is where observation comes into play. Okay, here are the different things. I mean, there are so many things. Here are the most critical things. How does a child in your classroom interact with materials and activities? How does the child appear to be in the classroom? How does the child interact with you, with the peers? How does the child express knowledge of and familiarity with letters and numbers? Does a child display selective expertise, meaning more interest in reading but not writing, excellent skills in literacy but very bad in numeracy? Find out why, find out the background. What are the outside of the classroom factors that play a role? Our NEP, Nippon Bharat, all of them stress again and again, and rightfully so, that you must take into account a child's emotional well-being. You must take into account the basic health of the child, the background of the child. Like I said, it's on each one of us as educators to find out what is going on in this child's home. Is there anything going on that is affecting the learning? Find that out. And how do you do observation? I use this technique very effectively for years. I just would carry around a small notepad and a pen or a pencil, or even a bunch of sticky notes, although that's not very environmentally friendly. A small notepad will do. Jot down your observations regularly, not your analysis. So-and-so got very angry. No, don't be subjective. Just put down the facts. So-and-so played with blocks, appeared to be enjoying it. Keep it as factual as possible. Put down the date and do these observations for every child in various settings. Then you can peel off those observations or tear them off and place them in chronological order in the folder or a file for that child. Once a month, or once in 2 months, or whenever it is, when you sit down and start looking at those notes from the beginning to the current day, you will start to see patterns. You will start to see growth. Sometimes you will see regression or a red flag. That is why observations, that daily informal observations, are so critical, because something that you may have missed in a formal assessment will actually pop up through the informal. Another way, of course, is to check in with your peer teachers if they're observing the same thing in a certain child. When to observe? Anytime and as often as possible. Make sure you observe each child in a variety of settings: indoor, outdoor, in a teacher-led activity versus a peer-led, individual versus pair versus large group, art versus music versus writing, and so on. Because children have their own likes and dislikes, and they have things that they excel in and things that they are learning. So if you observe a child who's not very fond of writing and keep doing observations only at the writing corner, you're not going to get a very good, well-rounded, holistic view of the child. So vary your settings, and that is a must. You can also observe during your conversations. How are they responding to you? What are they saying? What are they expressing? All very, very critical aspects. And when the child is engaged in both active and passive play. Here is another interesting tool that I used to use a lot. This is called the ABC method of observation. Here is what each of those stand for. When you are making an observation of something a child said or did, or something that happened in which a child was involved, first look at the A, the antecedent. What happened before the incident or the activity or the event? Who was there? Then you come to the B. What did the child, the target child that you're making the notes about, what did the child do? What did the child say? And then put down the C, the consequence. What happened after that activity, incident, or event? So I used to find that the ABC way of observation makes for a very unbiased, systematic, and very objective observation. A lot of times you find reasons for children's behavior. Okay, you will also find things that trigger children. I found through doing the ABC observation that a certain activity used to stress out a boy a lot, and as a result of that, he would always start biting the other children. And how were we to even guess that? The only way we knew it was because me and my student teachers started following the ABC, and when we started recording, we started realizing that this boy is biting them every time, starting biting the neighbors at a particular activity. Why? Because he was very stressed out by the activity. So we were able to come up with a solution that was appropriate for the child. So I encourage you all to start adopting this. And finally, we come to the very, very critical part of the whole puzzle, okay, in the importance of upskilling teachers. Sharing a photograph of myself. I'm on the extreme right with my children at what was supposed to be a classroom photograph. I don't know how many of us are smiling. More of us are crying than smiling. So if you see my caption here, it says being ready isn't always enough. We were all ready for the photograph. Look how nicely we're all dressed. Look how beautifully the children are dressed. But look at the photograph. Okay, of course it's a wonderful memory, and it's a great thing to look and laugh at. But look at that the little boy in the yellow actually wants to crawl out. He's ready to crawl out of the photograph. Okay, so my point here is being ready isn't always enough. It is important to be prepared. If I had been prepared better, how? If I had maybe done a mock photo session once or twice, made all my children sit in the same way and sang songs, okay, then they would not have thought that sitting like that is something odd. That was the first time in their lives they were all suddenly made to sit like that, okay, and someone strange is in front of them pointing something at them. Naturally, they all just burst out crying and threw a fit. But if I had done it, if I had maybe been prepared with some of their each child's favorite toy and said that you can all hold it in your hand, they would have been so much more relaxed. I wasn't prepared because I didn't know that I should have been prepared, right? So it's being ready isn't enough. It's important to be prepared. And as Benjamin Franklin rightly said, the only thing that is more dangerous than education is ignorance itself. So I wanted to tell you the upskilling of teachers, training of teachers to do all of this is so critical. And here's a question. We won't actually get into the answering. I was hoping we would have time, but clearly I overplanned, and I didn't also anticipate so much engagement from everyone. And I wish we had the time, but maybe some other time in the future. But the critical question is, why do teachers need to be prepared? And I wanted many of you to answer this, but without preparation, it's like airdropping someone into a situation, right? I don't know who my learners are. I don't know how to prepare for them. I don't know how to use the materials. I don't know how to set up my environment. Then how can we expect students to show learning outcomes? So teachers have to be prepared. Now, the next question is, how can they get prepared in the right way? Of course, by watching their peers, learning from their peers, but also by being trained in the right way, being trained by those who have been doing this, whether it's ECCE, whether it's assessment, whether it's remediation, whether it's dealing with learning loss, okay? When you are receive direct information and direct strategies from someone who's been doing it for a long time, there is nothing more valuable than that. And so it's enough. This is another maybe a bit of a tricky question. Is it enough if teachers get trained just once? That should be enough, right? What do you all think? Okay. Yes. Okay. Deepthi, Jayashri, Anuradha, Mayuri, everyone is resounding no, right? Absolutely correct. Teachers, it's not enough, right? It's not enough if you eat once, no? It's not enough if you eat once for the whole week. You have to eat every day because you have to nourish your body and your mind every day. Similarly, we have to nourish, we have to support, we have to enable, we have to empower teachers regularly, right? Regularly, because the world keeps changing. Learners keep changing. Strategies keep changing, techniques, tips and tricks. How are teachers to know of all of this? It's not enough if you do it once. I mean, we have teachers who attend our sessions, our teacher training sessions at Learning Matters, teachers who have 15, 20 years of experience. And when we do a session and they say, I've been teaching for 20 years and I didn't know this, and I wish I knew this. I would have been able to do this for the last 20 years so much better, and we're very grateful that they express it so honestly. But it's true. We once went to this school and I was talking to the teachers about some strategy, some ABC strategy or something even simpler. And this teacher said to me, and you could see it in her eyes, and she said, nobody ever told me this. Why didn't anybody tell me that I could do this? Okay. And that look on her face, right? Like, oh my God, so many years, if only I knew this, right? So it's not enough if teachers get prepared or trained once. It must happen continuously. So a very, very quick look, 2-minute look at before I move into the end of the session. At Learning Matters, how do we prepare teachers? We're very proud to be working with schools all over the country with our Star Teacher program, where we have specialized modules. We typically work with the school for the entire year on pedagogy, classroom management, assessment, remediation. Now, of course, also learning loss. How can we help teachers and schools to bridge the learning loss that has happened because of the pandemic? Effective use of teaching aids and tools. This is our sort of our flagship solution, and schools that work with us are thrilled because we had a teacher recently say to me, in fact, when I did one of the sessions, ma'am, I get such a positive feeling out of this because usually our trainings happen, the trainers come, work with us for 2 days, 3 days, and then they go away and we never see them again. But with your, in the case of Learning Matters, your Star Teacher program is going to be with us for the whole year, and we're going to see you every month and be able to catch up with you every month. I think that's amazing, ma'am. I think that will make a big difference. And she was spot on. The fact that we work with the schools for over a year helps us to cultivate our master trainers, to cultivate that relationship and truly understand the challenges of the school and the teachers and what the teachers need. And this is just a quick look at the process we use, very, very deep and comprehensive. We also impact teachers and students through TARA, which is our communicative English program. It's a voice-based program. So we provide a set of books. These are actual teachers and students learning with TARA. And it's the Amazon Eco Dot, and we have lessons on the Eco Dot along paired with the books. So the learners, we have separate modules for teachers and students, and so they are able to, they have someone to converse with. And the teachers are very happy to be in these kind of communicative English programs because there's no fear of being judged by anyone. The teachers work one-on-one or in pairs, like you can see here. So they're very comfortable. They follow along in their books. They, Tara asks them to read out or give certain answers, and when they do, she corrects them and not only tells them that they are wrong, but will also explain how they went wrong. So we have received such powerful feedback because, after all, how did we all learn our mother tongue? We learned first through listening, right? How did I learn Tamil? I learned through listening. How did I learn Hindi? When we moved to the north, I learned Hindi or Bengali by listening to people. Then I needed to have opportunities to practice speaking it, because unless you speak, you will not achieve mastery. Next, you read, and next, you write. That is the natural progression of language learning. That is exactly what Tara does. It provides a wonderful model of English for those who need it. And by being able to give immediate feedback, right? As soon as you say something, you get live feedback. And as well, learners can repeat the lessons and the modules innumerable times, as long as they want, right? And teachers can also have reported to us that they find it amazing because they're able to use Tara when they are working. Let's say the teacher is working with the students who are struggling more with certain things. She's able to give Tara to the bunch of students who are independent and have them do this while he or she is working. Or they can switch. Those who need more practice get more time with Tara, and the others get to do something else with the teachers. So Tara is a wonderful and very powerful tool and a teacher assistant, and we're very happy to see how it's been enabling schools and teachers. I also wanted to quickly share with you all, we're very, very proud of this. These are free videos on YouTube called Tips and Tricks for Teachers from Learning Matters. If you just go to YouTube and search for Tips and Tricks for Teachers, you should see this come up, this channel with this logo. And if not, you can click on this link. Maybe I should put it into the chat window, huh? Let me try that. I think it's, oh, whoops, 1 minute. Okay, let me just put it into the chat window. It's subscribe_learning matters. Okay. And if you go here, you will see lots of videos on very, very useful teaching tips, teaching strategies, things that our expert trainers and we have learned through years of being in the classroom. These are the types of things where that when we tell in our sessions, the teachers go, wow, I didn't know I could do this, right? So yes, so okay, someone is saying the link is not accessible. I hope, Subhashini, can you see it now? I've put it into the chat. Subscribe_learning matters will take you straight to the channel. Please do watch. We add videos every week. Thank you all so much for your very, very kind words. Oh, please send again. Okay, hold on 1 second, Subhashini. subscribe _ I hope I've typed it correctly. Yeah, please check. Yeah, thank you, Sharanya, for sharing it. Our link is working, says Ichapuran Singh. Thank you. Yes, wonderful. So before we end, I just wanted to say, just as light spreads from one lamp to another, the illumination of learning and knowledge spreads from one teacher to uncountable children. I want to salute all of you who are educators for being in this very, very difficult job. But thank you for being the light that spreads to so many children. And for those who would like to get in touch with me or with Learning Matters, here is my email ID. It is saras.r. Saras is short for Saraswati. saras.r@learningmatters.xyz. Please remember the XYZ, it's not .com. Let me put my email ID here. A lot of people send it to learningmatters.com. Yeah, sorry, we decided to complicate it for everyone by choosing an XYZ domain. saras.r@learningmatters. Okay, here is my email ID and here is our website. I would love to hear from you. If your school or your institution, we work with higher ed institutions as well, if they are looking for anything for teacher training, we have specialized teacher training for the early years. So if you would like to know more, I would love to tell you. Thank you so much, Vijay Lakshmi. She says you made emailing complicated but training very simple. I think that's one of the best compliments I've ever received. Thank you so much. Thank you all so much. I really do hope that you found my session relevant, meaningful, and useful. And once again, thank you so much, CEIR, Dr. Dipali and Dr. Srisan, for having me here. I hope, and I get too passionate when I talk about these topics. They mean a lot to me, and they mean a lot to Learning Matters. Like I said, we love teachers. So it is my honor to have been here and to have been with such a wonderfully engaged audience. Thank you so much. And I do hope to hear from many of you soon. saras.r@learningmatters.xyz or contact@learningmatters.xyz. Thank you so much. Jayashree is putting it in all caps. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you, Jayashree, also in caps. Wonderful.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I think the time is up, ma'am. Extremely sorry. Sharp 6 we used to,
Okay.
The question answer session we cannot conduct this time. So you can contact ma'am directly.
Okay.
Dipali ma'am, you can make the final.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Saraswati, I think you got accolades enough on the chat, and the feedback is there for you to understand how well the session has been taken by the participants this afternoon. And you had nearly more than 450 participants today. So that is the kind of engagement that you had with the participants here. Some of the things which came out very, very prominently for me was, that you're talking about the magic of choice for the children. You're talking about the integration of learning, maths and literacy, because that continues till the advanced years, all these things. And also providing the environment in the classroom, the right environment in the classroom. And all this adds up to ensuring a social and emotional safety of the child.
Yes.
Which is very important, which again forces me to say that continuously upgrading teachers, because every time the social atmosphere, the emotional atmosphere keeps on changing. So that's most important too for the teacher, which I think all the teachers have said that it is important for them to continuously train themselves and upgrade themselves. So thank you very, very much. There was a lot more that I could say, but I think time is holding us up. There is just a small proposal for all the teachers all the participants who are attending the session here today. In fact, the teachers who have been so actively participating in the session, that's what has prompted this suggestion that we can create we would like to create a WhatsApp group for educators who are interested in having deeper conversations on this subject. And it will have a lot of multiple benefits because teachers can discuss amongst themselves, share and learn, and whatever questions they may have can also be answered. So for all teachers who are attending this session here this afternoon, the link has been already shared in the chat box. If you are interested to join the group, the WhatsApp, you just have to click on join group and you will be able to join the group, which will help you to share and learn from each other. And that is what you said in your last slide, Saraswati. The lighting of the lamp, the light, once the light is made, it keeps on lighting the lamps of others. So thank you very much once again.
My honor.
And I hope we can continue to interact with you further. And as you've already given your email ID for all the teachers, I'm sure they'll be able to use it. I have personally seen your YouTube videos, and they are very, very interesting. And I'm sure teachers will love to use those. There are lots of tips and skills for them, tips for them to share.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
To me. Thank you so much, everyone, for having me. Dipali ma'am, I think the link doesn't seem to be opening directly.
For the link for the
WhatsApp link that has been given.
Ma'am, we will share it. We have other platform also. We will share it.
Okay. Sorry, sorry, sir. I think I misunderstood that. So the link will be shared by Dr. Sreesan.
Yeah. In the chat box also, sometimes it won't work, ma'am.
Okay.
Please share it with me as well.
We will, along with the certificate link also, we can attach this link.
Okay. Please share it with me as well. The WhatsApp link.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, ma'am.
So we are closing our session with the hope that we have lots of attendees in our next session, which is on the next Saturday. Thank you so much. Vande Guru.
Vande Guru. Vande Guru to you. Vande Guru.
So, sir, I take leave from you now. Thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am, please. Yes, thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Saraswati. Bye.
Bye.